In this edition, even though the polls are closed, the discussion is wide open. Oliver Riggle takes a look at why Super Tuesday was particularly super for this year's Democratic primary.
And we'll take a look at how a 600-year-old Brazilian martial art form is gaining popularity. Ana Sanchez has the story.
Also, Chris Bowers looks at the iPod and why this little electronic device has become essential for this generation. I'm Katie Wesselman.
And I'm Denny Kinsler. All these stories and more coming up on Campus Report.
Local coverage. Student perspectives. At the University of New Mexico. From the KNME studios, this is Campus Report.
Polling places around the United States were particularly crowded for this year's Super Tuesday. With record turnouts in Iowa, New Hampshire, and other states, enthusiasm and political involvement are just some of the signs that voters are fired up about. Now that the polls are closed, an all-time record primary participation has been logged in the history books, and some political analysts are asking why. Oliver Riggle has the story.
Critics of the United States have been known to comment that our democratic political process is overly complex. Traditionally, American voters cast their ballots in lower percentages than other countries that also have elections. That trend seems to be changing, however, with record numbers of voters from all demographics turning out to vote for the primaries for their respective candidates and make their voices heard. One such voter is Lucas Hubbard, who felt a certain sense of responsibility to go out and vote.
After seeing what's been going on the last 4 years in particular, I feel kind of guilty for not getting involved last time around. And so I think that it's kind of, as an American, it's my duty to do it this time.
Well, whether or not one is looking to make a difference in politics, it can't be denied that voters are inspired to be more active.
Mainly just wanting to get involved, to just kind of, be able to say that we had a hand in the democratic process.
And this year, the democratic process has proven to be far more attractive to voters, as there's definitely reason for the voters to be excited. Does that surprise voters like Lucas Hubbard?
Not really, considering the popularity of the current president. And so, of course, people are going to want to be getting involved more, feel that maybe we won't screw it up this time, especially with the war going on. I mean, people care. Executive
Director of GOPNM Mexico, Adam Feldman, offers some distinct insight as to why this year's voters for both parties are so energized.
I don't know about that. I think there's a lot of interest in this primary because you have a lot of firsts in this primary. I mean, on the Democrat side, you have a chance to nominate an African American or a female, and I think that stirs up a lot of excitement. I think on the Republican side, we have great candidates who have a lot to offer, and that stirs up excitement about the primary. I don't know so much if the excitement in this primary has anything to do with the current president.
Now, speaking of primaries, one thing that many don't know is that the New Mexico state-sanctioned primaries won't take place until the summer. Political Director of GOPNM Mexico, Chris Atencio.
Actually, what they had was a presidential preference caucus, which was just another method of choosing who their delegates would vote for at the Democrat National Convention in Denver. Under the state law, we're given a choice to stick with the state-run June 3rd primary for presidential selection or to run a caucus.
Although the turnout for the primaries was the highest it's ever been, Atencio would like to see more equal participation for all parties, independent or otherwise.
And it seems like the system is set up to make it prohibitive for minor and third parties to gain a foothold and to get a major voice in party politics. And we're all for more voices, more ideas. We feel that helps increase the effectiveness of government if there's more debates, more ideas, rather than just the same ideas from the same people for the last 80 years.
So the political process is alive and well. Young voters are getting into the mix, and ideas to improve the electoral process continue to crop up everywhere. Although everyone may not agree as to who the best candidate is, it seems that there is some agreement on one thing: democracy is alive and well. For Campus Reports, this is Oliver Riggle.
Kemmie Turpin joins us now on her thoughts of Super Tuesday. Kemmie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Why do you feel that it's important to vote on Super Tuesday?
Well, I think a lot of people thought it was really important to vote this Super Tuesday because they've been kind of fed up with a lot of stuff that's been going on in the government, and this is the way for them to show what they want and choose which leaders they want.
What are some of the issues that are most important to you as a voter?
I think healthcare is really important, and I think a lot of people really think that's an important issue right now. All the candidates have their take on it, and they're all different. Also, the war in Iraq has been really big right now. Obviously, it's been going on, and I think people want to change. At least the people that showed up to Super Tuesday wanted to change.
And what's your overall impression of the whole day?
Well, New Mexico was pretty messy this year. They moved the primary up, and so it was just really messy. I know a lot of polling places didn't have enough ballots. They ran out. They weren't expecting as much voter turnout this year as usual, which is really great, actually, that so many people turned out. But Rio Rancho didn't even have, they had one polling place, so a lot of people were really upset about that.
And do you think things would be better if they moved it to a different day?
Well, they did move it up. It's normally later in the year. So I think that there would have been a lot more people that could vote, or they would have had it set up a lot better. The ballot still had names of people that weren't even in the race anymore on them. And had it been later, they probably would have had more time to prepare and expect that many voters.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for joining us today, Kemmie.
Thank you.
Capoeira is one of many cultural weapons used to break the chain of enslavement in Brazil. Because of the many techniques and styles, capoeira is often mistaken for dancing or acrobatic maneuvers. Ana Sanchez has a story.
Capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial arts self-defense form that incorporates acrobatics, dance, percussion, and songs in a rhythmic dialogue of body, mind, and spirit. Capoeira emerged as a way to resist oppression, secretly practice art, transmit culture, and lift spirits.
Back in the 1500s, when Portugal invaded Brazil, it was the slaves who decided to create something to defend themselves with, and they would disguise the martial art behind the music, and so when the police would come or their masters would come, they would think that they were just dancing or playing. But in actuality, they were practicing to defend themselves, to defend their lives.
Rosa Seleis has been practicing capoeira for 2 years now, and she says it is the best thing in the world.
Capoeira is better than anything in the world to me because it encompasses so many things.
Capoeira, unlike most other martial arts, can be more accurately described as a game than a fight style.
It's definitely a physical struggle. I can't say it's a fight per se. I can say more of a game in the sense that it's a game for me to oppose my dominance in the holder, my dominance of space, dominance of speed, dominance of style, dominance of acrobatic movements. It could be any of those things.
Tiantea Fornte has been doing capoeira for 8 years. He's a blue belt now, which gives him the title of instructor. There are 11 color belts before achieving the title of master.
There's a hierarchy in capoeira.
I'm still a baby. I'm a second belt. The belt doesn't mean much if you don't train, if you don't learn about capoeira, if you don't learn about the history of capoeira.
Music is another characteristic that separates capoeira from most martial arts. It plays a very important role in the capoeira game. It sets the pace for capoeira players. Participants form a roda, or a circle, and take turns playing instruments, singing, and sparring in the center of the circle. Dominance in the roda is as much psychological and artistic as it is a question of who winds up tumbling to the floor.
It got institutionalized in like the 1920s, and it was brought internationally in the 1980s. And ever since then, it's just been all over the world, and it's been recognized as, Brazil's sport.
Capoeira is gaining popularity, and it's popping all over the place, especially in the media, such as commercials, music videos, and movies. Keep your eyes open because you never know when the next cell phone commercial will come around featuring capoeira. For Campus Report, this is Ana Sanchez.
Beaches, warm weather, bikinis, and muscles. All things you expect to see on a trip for spring break. But if you plan on staying in New Mexico and volunteer at your local animal shelter, you are sure to have a blast with a playful new friend, and you will make a difference that will last a lifetime for a fellow mammal. Christina Lovato has good recommendations for those of you who are planning on staying in for spring break.
As spring break is coming up, students are planning trips to sunny beaches for fun in the sun. But if you're broke and you feel like you want to do something here in Albuquerque, then volunteer at your local animal shelter. While your classmates are out tanning and playing volleyball by the beach, you can make an animal's day just by being there. Matthew, a volunteer of 3 years at the Eastside Animal Welfare Center, thinks it's an excellent way to spend your spring break.
This is a good start to work with animals. If you love animals, please come.
James Halaman, the program coordinator of the Animal Welfare Program, says that anyone can volunteer.
Well, the biggest and most important is that you're an animal lover, which kind of goes without saying. We do background check everybody that comes into our program. We need to make sure we don't have anyone with crimes against animals or any serious other offenses. But we welcome just about everybody with open arms to help in any way they can.
Students as young as 11 can volunteer as long as they get consent from their parents.
We allow kids as young as 11 to volunteer here. Kids 11 to 14 need to volunteer with a parent. Kids 15 to 17 just need a release of liability and permission signed by their parents. So we've got lots of high school students.
Not only do you get to interact with animals, you can also volunteer to work with customers. Matthew's favorite thing about volunteering at the shelter is that he gets to help the people.
My favorite thing is just helping out the customers. Because these animals need a fun-loving home.
Jan, who has also been a volunteer for 3 years, enjoys working in the cattery because she loves cats.
Every Wednesday afternoon I come in to the cattery only because I am totally devoted to cats. And my goal each week is to get as many adopted as possible. And I have a pretty good record with that. You know, I usually get 3 to 5 adopted each time I'm here, and it always kind of gives me a great feeling to have that happen. And when I'm here, I just go around and talk to people and see if they want to look at a particular cat, because I have keys to open the cages, and then I can give them a little more information or send them to someone who has access to the computer to get even more information. And I walk around and I make sure all the kitties have water and food and clean their litter boxes, because they're not going to use their dirty litter box.
Some organizations ask that volunteers come for certain times and days, but at your local animal shelter, you can set flexible times to volunteer.
Well, we're extremely flexible. That's the great thing about this program, is you set your own hours. You never have to commit to a certain time or certain hours each month. So volunteers come in that just want to do grooming or just want to work at the off-site events. And then we've got a lot of people that do everything. They work with the cats, work with the dogs, adoption counsel people, telling them, you know, if this is the right animal for their home, and if not, finding another animal for them. So yeah, pretty much if you come in here, you can do whatever you want to do, and we're working with our animals. We're very flexible.
With those flexible hours, Jan has the opportunity to go in on afternoons and do something she is so passionate about.
Volunteering, I will say one thing, it has changed my life. I always wanted to volunteer, but I had to work full-time. And I decided a few years ago to give that up, and now I work for myself, so I create my own schedule, and this Wednesday afternoons are always part of my schedule. And it really is the most rewarding thing I do. And there's no earning money in it, and it's still the most rewarding thing.
In order to volunteer, all you need to do is fill out a volunteer application form.
Okay, it'll come to us here in the volunteer office, either myself or Sam, who works in the program, and you can volunteer here at the East Side, the West Side Shelter, our location in Coronado Mall. It's called Lucky Paws. It's an adoption center, and also at our many off-site events. So everything does come through us here in this office, but volunteers can volunteer wherever they'd like.
So if you decide for spring break to save some money and do something good for your community, then be a pal to some adorable furry friends. For Campus Report, I'm Christina Lovato.
Christina Lovato joins us now to talk more about the animal shelters here around town. Christina, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So what's the process to volunteer with these shelters?
Well, what you got to do is you, if you're interested, you fill out an interest form, and it serves as an application form. And what it does is it goes to the Eastside Animal Shelter, and it goes to James Halaman, who's the program service coordinator there. And then they just set you up if you want to volunteer at the Eastside Animal Shelter. You're more than welcome to, or Coronado Mall. It's really up to the volunteer.
Tell me a little bit more about this 311 process.
What the 311 process is, Mayor Martin Chavez, started the whole thing along with the animal shelters here in Albuquerque. And what you do is, if you're low income and you have an animal, what you can do is you can take it and they neuter. They put the chip in for free. So I did it with my dog. So because I'm a student and low income, so it worked out really good.
And what are the locations around town that you can volunteer at?
Well, they do have the Eastside Animal Shelter, which is up in the Heights, and also the Westside Animal Shelter in Rio Rancho. And then they also have the one in Coronado Mall called Lucky Paws. So, the one in the mall is so convenient, because people are there on the weekends and, so they can just stop on by there. So. Now,
do you just volunteer at one, or do you volunteer for more than one of these shelters?
You can do anything. They're really flexible, so if you want to do, 2 on a weekend, at the same time, they'll totally work with you, and you get to set your own hours, which is really good. With some organizations that you volunteer with, they're like, come at this day, come at this time. So it works out really good.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for joining us,
Thanks.
Christina.
Music feeds the soul, so the saying goes. Members of the generation wholeheartedly agree. Chris Bowers talked with a few iPod users to see what the big fuss is all about over the little devices.
We've all seen them, the trademarked white Apple headphones in the ears of iPod owners all around us. That's because members of the iPod generation are out in full force, exercising, walking to class, studying, or even just relaxing. Some UNM iPod users say it's not only an electronic device, but it's a way of life. For second-year law student Valerie Silva, her iPod plays a big role in her everyday routine.
I think that my iPod is an extension of my personality. It's got all my kinds of music on it, and I can pretty much do whatever I want with it. I use it in the car. I use it when I'm studying, sometimes in the house while I'm cleaning, pretty much anytime I need music.
But Silva isn't the only person who uses her iPod as a must-have daily accessory. UNM senior Selena Rosales says her day just isn't the same without it.
I do feel lost and out of sorts without my iPod. When I don't have my iPod with me and I'm on campus, I don't have my music to listen to, so I do feel a little lost without my music.
Having your music with you everywhere you go is one advantage of having an iPod, but Rosales says it also helps when trying to avoid those unwanted conversations when heading to class.
I do use my iPod to make myself invisible, especially when I'm running late and I see someone, I don't really have time to stop and conversate, so listening to the iPod is just a quick hi, hello, and I'm off.
With all the iPods floating around, it's safe to say they're an extremely hot commodity. The official Apple website reported that in the fourth quarter of this past fiscal year alone, the company sold 10,200,000 iPods, a 17% increase from last year. Junior Dale Inges says that number seems just about right.
Dang, well, I guess that's a lot, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised because almost every other person you see walking around here has an iPod in, so.
But not everyone thinks the new iPod trend will lead to a perfect future. UNM Communications and Journalism professor Richard Schaefer says there's a major flaw.
Because they pick their own music, they can avoid other kinds of music, so they have a musical gated community. And ultimately, that may not be a good thing. It could be a bad thing because they don't get exposed to new tastes.
But for people who own one, it's much more than numbers and dollars or the possibility of a narrow musical future. It's about being part of the new and exciting era becoming widely known as the iPod generation.
I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. I feel like I'm part of something that 20 years ago didn't exist.
For Campus Report, this is Kristen Bowers.
And Amanda Shepard now joins us to talk about her use of the iPod. Amanda, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
How often do you wear your iPod?
Well, I've been noticing more and more that I use it just about every day, whether I'm on campus or, headed to work, in the car, at the gym, just about everywhere.
And what do you normally listen to on your iPods?
Well, there's a little bit of everything on there. We've got your hip hop and R&B, we've got a little bit of country, and still got some downloads from, the boy band days.
Why are iPods so popular nowadays?
Well, I think especially with the younger generation, you know, we're very much an on-demand type of society. We want exactly what we want when we want it. You know, everything from TiVo all the way to the very specific songs that we want instead of purchasing an entire album.
And when do you think that these iPods became so popular?
Well, I started seeing them around a lot about a year ago. But just recently with, you know, the new iPhone on the market and then the new Touch iPod, I think there's just been a large influx of customers that are really interested in those, you know, technologies.
So you use mainly your iPods for music. You don't like tape any lectures from like classes or anything like that?
That might be a good idea. Maybe that would improve some grades, but no, generally it's just for music.
Okay, well, Amanda, well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, I can hardly go without my iPod. Have you seen the new iPod Touch? 32 gigabytes of tasty goodness.
Yeah, that's a lot of space to fill in, but you know, I still don't think it has enough space to keep all of my Kenny G albums and Bon Jovi and you know, Seinfeld episodes and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for tuning in to Campus Report. Until next time, I'm Katie Wesselman.
And I'm Denny Kinsler. Thanks for joining us.